AEW is at it again because this is probably the most strangest thing that I've seen AEW and Tony Khan do. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. Now, it's no secret that AEW and Tony Khan, they're consistently under fire from fans. Some fans, they mean well. I would put myself under that category, while there are others that just want to hate on AEW because they're WWE fans or they're just really, really miserable. Put those people aside. I want AEW to succeed, but they make decisions that make you wonder. They make decisions that make you question, what is the goal? What are we doing here? And they're back at it again. This comes at a time where they're doing the Death Rider storyline and that they're building towards Grand Slam Australia. February 15th, 2025. Now, we do have Revolution coming up in March, and then, of course, Double or Nothing. Now, something interesting happened here, because AEW announced during this week's episode of Dynamite that Grand Slam Australia would be airing at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT and Max on February 15th. There's an issue with that because TNT has the All-Star Saturday night airing at the very same time. As most people may know, the All-Star weekend here in the United States is one of the biggest nights on the calendar for the league and the television network. This caused confusion among fans when the graphic was shown after Toni Storm earned the right to challenge Mariah May for the women's title at Grand Slam. It's a massive, massive deal. Now, keep in mind that a few weeks ago, AEW, they had to change venues. Originally, they were going to hold a stadium show down in Australia, and this was going to be it. But due to very, very poor ticket sales, they opted to move it to a smaller venue, which was brilliant, right? Like, if something's not working, screw it. Pivot. Go to something that does work. I'm not knocking them on changing venues. And I don't think anyone else should either. Also, they don't have very strong distribution down in Australia. WWE doesn't have very strong distribution down in Australia either, but especially AEW. So even when they announced the show, people were like, Australia and a stadium show? What are we doing? And then that leads us to this, because Dave Meltzer noted in the Wrestling Observer Wrestling Observer newsletter that AEW has come up with a new plan. AEW is going to air Grand Slam after TNT's NBA coverage. This is going to be 24 hours after the event actually takes place. The event starts at 2:30 Eastern on Friday, okay? So you're going to have a situation in which AEW is going to have a massive lead-in from the NBA coverage. The show, or the NBA program, if you will start at 8 p.m. Eastern. Let's say it gets done at 11, so you're airing at 11 midnight-ish on the East Coast. If I'm AEW, I'm saying, okay, we got screwed over with the time slot. I'm airing this show live. I'm airing it at 1:30 in the morning. Or I'm airing it at 9 a.m. that next morning. I'm not waiting until the TNT broadcast. You're already simulcasting it on Max. If it's a situation in which you cannot air live programming, which they clearly can do with the NBA, what are we doing? Why is this airing nearly 24 hours afterwards? Why is this a television special? Why did you book this show to begin with? Like, there's so many questions in which are not answered. There are so many questions that I have, that you have. And my new favorite saying is, what are we doing? I want to know, what are we doing with this show? Why was this show booked? What was the original idea for the show, right? Because if it's a situation in which they thought, okay, we could do this as a pay-per-view. Well, Max doesn't have the capabilities to do a pay-per-view yet. Okay, fine. So we'll do a Max special. You could have done that, right? You could have said, hey, we know this is going to be on tape delay just a little bit, but we can do it the next morning. Why are we dictating it to TNT? Is it because TNT wants it? Well, if that's the case, then you need to reevaluate everything, because what is the point of flying all of your talent, all of your crew, all of your production hands, everybody, and the rings and the setups and the yada, 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 all the way to Australia? That's very, very expensive. Okay? And we're going to do it for a TV special that is going to air late at night. What are we doing? Who came up with this idea? And why was this idea not nixed? Was it a situation in which, when they signed their new contract with Warner Media, that this show was included? I highly doubt it. It just makes you wonder, right? Like, so we're in a situation now where we have a lame duck show. And here's another thing. So you have to build up this show. You have to get people intrigued. Mariah May defending the TV or the Women's Championship against Toni Storm. That's a big match. That's their first rematch since All In, when Mariah May dethroned Toni Storm, becoming the Women's Championship. That's the first time they've met. Toni is still doing this ridiculous dementia gimmick, but it's still going to be their first time meeting in this way, right? And Mariah May will win. She will retain the title. That's not a big shocker. And then when Toni Storm becomes timeless Toni Storm yet again, they'll do a trilogy, pick a freaking date, it doesn't matter, and Toni will probably get her big revenge, right? That's where we're heading with that feud. But aside from that, are you going to load up this show? Think about this. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and Mercedes Moné, they worked a little show called Wrestle Dynasty earlier this month. You may have heard of it. AEW cannot promote that show because it aired on New Japan World and Triller. They had Kenny Omega's in-ring return on that. They could not talk about it. There are so many different question marks that I have with this company. And I go back and it's like, this, what went wrong? We're booking, and I saw Matt Hardy say this recently on his podcast. It's like, AEW has all these young talents that are about to break through, and then they get momentum, and then AEW just either stops using them, they don't know how to use them, they book them to lose, and then all the momentum goes away, and they have to rely on bigger name, older veteran, aka former WWE talent, to come in there and draw your tickets. Instead of, okay, we have a few veterans here, but we're also got all this young talent that we can mold into our own stars, and then we can build in our own way, and we can set them up for the next 10, 15 years. That's a problem. What are we doing? Please fix this. Please.